Hi everybody, I'm back with another video. In this video we'll have a look at creating a job in Jenkins. In the previous video I've installed Jenkins using Ansible role. We reused open source code available on GitHub. We built a couple of files and installed Java and Jenkins using those existing Ansible roles or existing code. We also used some variables to set or modify our installation, but other than that it went really smooth. And now we'll look at how to administer Jenkins. I'm gonna bring up my VM, so that's my VM, and bring up the terminal. There's something I was gonna show you in the last video but I didn't, which is basically forwarding ports or being able to access Jenkins from outside the virtual machine. So if I do ifconfig, so that's the IP address that my network interface card on the VM is getting, and the reason why that is because I've set it up as a bridged network adapter. So when I go to network, it's using my Dell wireless adapter as a bridge network, and that's why it gets an IP address directly from my modem. And if I show you this is my Windows 7 machine, which is the host, and if I do an IP config and scroll all the way up, that's the IP address that my host has, 0.10, so they're on the same subnet. So if I do ping 192.168.0.100, technically I should be able to, okay, there it is. So it is able to get to it, and I should be able to get back from here if I do ping 192.168.0.10, and that works too. Alright, so there's two-way communication, so which implies that I should have I should be able to connect to the Jenkins portal, the Jenkins web interface from my host machine. So if I go in here, I want to make sure that this IP address stays the same, just here. So I want to make sure that this VM gets that IP address each single time it's turned on. This is my TP-Link router that I'm using within my office here. So that's the status. If I go to if I go to DHCP and client list, it's not visible here for some reason. I'm not sure why. It could be a problem with the TP-Link, I don't know. So if I go to address reservation, I've already added, so 110 is the IP address, and if you see, this is the Ethernet adapter, this is the MAC address of the Ethernet adapter on the VM, and I've added that one straight here, 080027 E1FBCA, but it's not enabled. So as you can see, the status here, it says disabled. So I'm just going to go ahead and select it here and enable. So once I enable it, so you see the status enabled. So now if I restart the VM, I'll get the same IP address each single time. So I'm just going to close that. I don't need that anymore. Now if I go to Jenkins from my local host computer, so if I go to 192.168, I could go in and add a host entry, but I'm just lazy. To port 8080, we should be able to hit the same Jenkins GUI that we hit in the last video. I see what's wrong. That's not the right IP address. It's supposed to be 110. Oh, there it is. Okay, so if I log in with the same username and password that I used earlier, if I do admin sign in, it should log in straight away. Perfect. So I'm gonna save that, and yeah, that looks good. Now let's create our first job in Jenkins or pipeline. The only option available at the moment is freestyle project, because let me call it a test job, because I don't have any plugins installed. I'm just gonna say test_job. restart project. So I should install some plugins because see, source code management doesn't have Git, so I'm gonna probably have to install some plugins as well. So anyways, I'm just gonna get this out of the way and maximize this and zoom in a little bit so you guys can see it better. Alright, so let's go tab by tab on top here. So discard all the bills. No, I don't have parameters. I want to disable this project when you don't want anyone to trigger any builds for this project. Okay, so the other thing is Jenkins calls each of the jobs a project. So when I say a project or a job, I'm meaning the same thing. So I call it a job and it says a project. Anyways, well, execute concurrent builds if necessary. We don't need that at the moment. I don't have any Git, so I'm just gonna probably run some shell commands. So you could use build triggers. You could trigger builds remotely using the API or CLI, the Jenkins CLI, or the Jenkins API down here, the REST API. The documentation for the REST API is over there. So if we go back to source code, okay. Build after other projects are built. Now this is a good option if you wanna trigger this job. Let's say you have a job that builds the WAR file for your development project. You could have you have another job that copies it to a certain location or deploys it to Tomcat. You could schedule the job when the build job finishes. You can go into the next job and say build after other projects are built, and you can select the job name here for the job that builds the WAR file, and you can say trigger only if the build is stable, or trigger even if the build fails. You wouldn't do that for copying a WAR file, but if you can have a job that does exception handling or something like that. So when you can trigger that job after a certain job fails. We don't need this. Build periodically. Basically, you run stuff on a cron schedule. I can say to run a job every hour. I could do this. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So when I click outside, okay, maybe I got one too many. Okay, so that's 5 parameters. One for minutes, hours. So if you click here, you get help. So minute, hour, day of the month, and day of the week. So, and here are some combinations you can try. And there's a whole lot of other documentation and examples. How to use time zones, because all of this is UTC. Okay, sorry, that could be wrong. It will take the time zone from, you see it says AEST because I've installed the machine in that time zone when I did the installation using Ubuntu ISO. So no, this is not UTC. I was confused with the AWS cron because that's UTC. So to get rid of the help, you click back on the question mark, or so we're not going to use that one. Or you could use PolSCM. This will use when you want to trigger builds when something happens on a GitHub or a Bitbucket repo. When you merge your development branch into release, you can say build my code and deploy to a test machine. What we're interested in today is to execute shell. You could do Windows batch, but I'm not running it on a Windows machine, so it's not gonna know. So I'm gonna use shell. I've installed Maven, so that's why it's showing Maven. So I could do echo hello there with an exclamation, and I'm gonna say echo date. Alright, you know what, I don't need echo for date. I can just say date. Yeah, it also shows you could print the job number or the build number. You could say echo current build number is, and you could do $env.build_number, and I think that's what this is talking about. It's talking about all the environment name. You see that's build number. I probably don't need the env, but anyways, let's see if that fails. I'll go in and change it. So you could add another build step. You could add another command like execute shell command. You also have post build actions. You could either build another project. You could, like I was talking about over here, build after other projects are built. Now let's say you want to trigger a build after this job is successful. You want to trigger another job, you would do it from here, build other projects. So that one, this option will build the current project after a certain project, and this one will build a certain project after this project is built. Archive artifacts will copy your stuff into the archive, or like if you build something in your workspace, you can copy them to another location. So record fingerprints of files is basically you keeping different versions of files, so if something changes you can go back to that version. Post build actions, that's post build actions. I'm just gonna save and run the job. Hopefully it wouldn't fail, because I'm not sure if I'm supposed to use env. Okay, that didn't fail. Okay, so this is where it built. So it creates this, that's my Jenkins home. That's my Jenkins home. Workspace is where it builds all the jobs, and that's the name of the job. It creates a directory with the name of the job. And I said echo hello there, it did hello there, and it printed the date. And your current build number is, okay, so it didn't understand what a build number is. So let's go back in and change. I think I put the env dot, so I don't need that. Okay, so hopefully that should work. And if I build now, okay, there it is. So it's the second build, so it says your build number is, and then prints the number. Okay, I put an extra space, and I'll show you something else. So when you go into Jenkins, you can enable auto refresh, so it keeps refreshing your screen. So when there's a longer job building, you will easily see what's going on. It helps me when I'm building a bunch of stuff, and you can see my screen auto refresh. So to fix the space, I can go back in, scroll down to the bottom. I don't need this space. Save, run another job. You can see this icon will keep changing if you pay attention. So number 3 should show up here. There it is. Okay. There it is, that's number 3. There's no extra space. There's just one space. And when I go back to Jenkins, it shows me all the jobs, and you see the icon now is got a little sun. But I think if I keep building, and if it keeps, okay, gotta go back into the job and build now. So this little icon will keep changing, and it'll tell you when the last success was and the last failure was. I don't have a fail. I'll keep building, and it should show like a cloudy. If it starts failing, it shows cloudy or sunny. Build now. Alright, so I think that's the sunniest it gets. So if I could make it fail, but I think I'll do that a little later, because I think the video is getting too long. So I'll see you guys in the next one, where we'll talk about how you can add some plugins and make your screen look a little nicer, because it's got nothing at the moment. It's just got one type of project. So I'm just gonna go in, and in the next video let's add some plugins, and have a little play with it. So thank you. If you like the video, please like and subscribe, and it's always good to see you guys. I'll see you in the next one.